Thanks to everyone that's joining us this afternoon. We're just going to give everyone a few minutes to log in and get settled, and then I'll do some introductions and some general housekeeping for today's session, and then we'll hand over to our presenters. So sit tight, we'll get going in about 2 minutes time. Thanks to everyone that's just joining us. We're going to get started in about a minute's time. So just sit tight. We're just going to give it a little bit longer for a few people to log in after they've finished up for the day, and we'll get started momentarily. Thank you. Okay, it looks like we've got some good numbers now. I'm sure we'll have a few more people drop in as they finish up the day, but we will get started. We've got a lot to cover today. So I wanted to thank you for joining Nelson Primary today for our PM Benchmark software webinar. So just a few housekeeping points on our webinars. You will all have noticed that you're muted. So that's just a setting that we have set up. There's quite a few of you online, so it just minimizes background noise. However, if you do want to communicate with us, and we will have time for a Q&A at the end of this, so if you do want to post any questions or if you have any technical difficulties that you want to contact us about, if you scroll down to the bottom of your page, the Zoom functionality toolbar will pop up. Now you've got the chat and the Q&A. So I'll be monitoring both of those throughout the session. The Q&A does what it says. You can post your questions in there. They are public for everyone to see, which is fantastic if you think your question might be relevant to other people using the software or other staff. And then we've got the chat function, so that can be public. You can also direct message people on it. And I'll be monitoring that. That's a good place if you're having any technical difficulties. Post it in there and I'll try to troubleshoot as best I can with you remotely. We are recording today's session, just so you're aware, and you will receive a copy of that recording in about a week and a half's time after we've finished our second session. So I think that's it for general housekeeping. So I'll pass you over to our two presenters. We've got Kate McGough, who's one of our senior publishers at Nelson Primary, and Nick Medlock, who's our technical product manager. So they'll be walking you through a live experience on the PM Benchmark software today. And then at the end, we will have a Q&A section. So do feel free to post your questions as we go, and then we'll get to them at the end. So with that, I will pass over to our two presenters. Thank you.
Thanks, Mel. Hi, everyone. Well, sorry, Nick.
Just saying, thanks, Mel.
Yeah, welcome everybody. It's really great to have you here, and Nick and I are really happy to show you through the PM Benchmark software platform. So really today what we'll be doing is doing a run through of setting up the students through the Benchmark software, capturing the reading assessment data through doing an online reading record, looking at the reporting and graphing functionality, and of course, looking at linking the assessment to instruction through the use of the recommendations output that's in the system. So the PM Benchmark software is the digital reading assessment resource, but it's used in conjunction with the print books and cards that are available in the physical kits. And it's used for identifying student instructional or independent reading levels using unseen fiction and non-fiction texts. It's accessible on any device, and it allows teachers to store school-wide reading data in one place. So we'll kick it off, and I think Nick's just loading in the details there. So to access PM Benchmark software, you'll need to log in first to cengage.com.au primary. And as you saw Nick did there, you put in your username and your password details, and you'll be taken to this screen. So this is where you can access your subscriptions. You can see here that I have multiple subscriptions, and I'm going to select the PM Benchmark demonstration, and I'm going to use it. So that's a really simple way of getting into the software, and this takes you to the landing page, and this is the assessments tab of the Benchmark software. So from here, we'll just do a quick overview of this page and of where you can go from this screen. You'll see on the left-hand side a menu of tabs. You'll see assessments, students, groups, and teachers. And assessments is the screen that we're on now. Across the top of the screen, you can see common actions. So you can see start a new assessment, create a new student, and view students. And then you'll see below the recently completed assessments and incomplete assessments. Now, these are assessments, complete or incomplete, that have been administered by everybody in your school who has access to the software. So if you're a teacher and you have one class or group of students in the software, you will see everybody else's assessments sitting there in the list. And if you scroll to the bottom, which Nick has, there's a little button down there for archived assessments as well, which will allow you to access archived assessments, and you can restore any deleted assessments, or you can go in there and delete an assessment forever. So that's just the overview, and you'll always land on the screen when you first log in. So I think what we'll do is, shall we look at the Students tab, do you think, Nick? That's probably like a good place to start, and where we'll take a closer look at it. So if you click on the Students tab, what you'll see here is a huge list of students that have been uploaded into the system. It's easy to search for a particular student. You just use the search field, and then you can type in that student's name, and you can go straight into that student's individual profile, which we'll look at a bit later on as well. There are other buttons on this student screen that you can see on the right-hand side. Manage students, that takes you to a list of the student cohort. You can delete them from the system or edit their details. Archives takes you to deleted students, and bulk upload. And this is part of the upload system. Now, I think if we take a look, Nick, maybe at the bulk upload, we'll just thank you. Yeah, so if you were coming in as an administrator, that's right, isn't it, Nick, to do a bulk upload?
It's an admin, that's what we recommend.
That's exactly right. What you would do is you'll get taken to this screen, and then you can download a CSV file. So if we have a quick look at it, I think Nick's doing it now in the background.
I'll do it in a second.
It's just coming up. What you'll see, you can use this CSV file to upload all the students that you want as part of the PM Benchmark software. So what you can see here is there are some details that you have to enter, and there are some details that you can choose to enter. They're optional. So first of all, of course, you'll have the first name and the surname of the student and their date of birth. You put in their gender and the year level that they're in, and also their PM reading level. Now, if for example you were, it was a prep class, and they don't have a reading level yet, just enter 1 for now, just so your student can be uploaded into the system, and you can adjust it later on. You can also choose to put in information if they're part of reading recovery or English as a second language. And also, if you have reading groups or class names or group name, you can enter them there, and any other notes you would like as well. And I think, as Nick said, we recommend that an administrator do the bulk uploading process. But it's very swift and quick, and it's a really good way of getting your students into the system. So thanks, Nick. I think we'll just go back to the student tab. So the screen where we had our list of the student cohort. The final button that's on the far right side, of course, is add an individual student. And that's a manual process, and you can add one student at a time if you choose to, and you can fill in those details. So as part of the student tab, this is where you'll go when you want to look up individual student profiles. So let's go and search for a student. So Nick, we could search for Lewis D'Angelo. Yep. So as Nick used that search bar, he typed in the name, and here comes here's Lewis for us. So it brings up his student details, and we can just see from this screen a really quick snapshot. We can see the group he's attached to, we can see his age, the year, the class he's in, year 2, the PM level he's sitting on, and of course we can edit his details if we want to. So to get some more information on Lewis, we just click on his name, on his profile, and here comes now his individual profile. So you can see his name at the top, the summary under there. He's 8 years old, year 2, he's on level 6. And of course, the main panel will show like date of birth, year, the group that he's in, and some any other notes. And you can go in and edit those from this screen using that edit button on the far right-hand side. So the other part of an individual student profile, which is what we're looking at here, is that you'll be able to look at their assessment history, and you'll also be able to look at their learning progress. And these are graphs that are part of the software. So let's take a look at the assessment history, the student assessment history. So this graph shows the assessment history by date and level over time, year on year. So as you can see where Nick is pointing the cursor down below at the bottom of the graph, we've got 3 years of data sitting down there. By hovering over the circle in the graph, you'll be able to see a quick snapshot of what assessment resource was used. LA1 stands for the PM Benchmark Literacy Assessment 1. We've got at the top a key actually just for those circles. So if you're using the RAR software and print kits or the literacy assessment, they all get captured onto that one graph. You'll also see in that hovering state the level of the assessment. You'll see the reading accuracy percentage and the self-correction rate. Now you can click on that circle icon, and what it will do will take you to the completed assessment for that student at that time. So this is the assessment summary review if you want to review that assessment or go back and look at anything. So you can, if we can get back to this individual student profile screen, Nick, and Nick just use that back arrow at the top in the browser just to get back. You can also review the assessment history as a table. So if you click on that text button, it gives you a little bit more information than what that graph did. So again, you can see the date, you can see the assessment resource used, you can see the PM level and which book or card was assessed, the title of it. Now you'll be able to see the reading level achieved in the assessment, the accuracy percentage, and of course, comprehension and retelling results. And from this, you can also archive that student's assessments too, if you choose to do so. And you can use the log button just to go back to the assessment history graph view. So another graph way of presenting the data that's captured in the system is through the learning progress, which will show the student's progress over time for each assessment via reading level, via accuracy, and via self-correction rate. And Nick simply just moves through those 3 grey tabs at the top, depending on what data he's looking for at the time. And you can see again the date of the assessment and the level assessed in the graph by hovering over that small circle. And again, you're able to go back and review that assessment by clicking on on that circle as well. So that's a way of capturing the data and reviewing the data through an individual student profile. Now we'll go back down to, if we go back to our assessments tab, which is that landing screen for the software. And we went through that menu down the side. We've looked at assessments, we've looked at students. Let's look at the groups tab as well now. So groups are the way of assembling student and teacher profiles, which will really match the setup of your school. So typically groups are used in the PM Benchmark software to reflect class structures or smaller targeted reading groups. This screen gives you a lot of information straight away. You can see all the groups that are created in the system. And you'll also see at the very top there, students without a group section. And that will, yes, exactly, that will show the students that have been uploaded into the system, but that are not yet assigned to a group. You'll also see on the groups page here, information about specific groups, which we can go into. There's a long list here. So what you can do is when you're looking for your own group, you can use the search bar. So the other thing to note too, of course, is that if you're new to the software and you're using it for the first time and you didn't add groups, if you were doing a bulk upload, you won't have groups displayed on this screen. You'll need to create groups. It's easy to do. Yeah, thanks, Nick. You just click on the new group button on the right, and that way you can create the group name, you can invite a teacher, and then you can search for the students to upload. So if we go back to managing our groups, that's the other button that was sitting next to create a new group. This is a really handy tool to arrange existing group configurations. So it allows you to select and move multiple students to groups or between existing groups. It's really useful at the start of a school year where you might be rolling over a large group of students between your groups. So it's a really good tool. That's the way you should do it, through the Manage Groups section of the software. And as you can see, Nick's looking for students, he's adding them, and then he can select a group to move those students into, and you can just keep pushing your students into different groups this way. To get back to the main group screen, you can just re-click that red button or use the arrow, or there's many ways. Thanks, Nick.
And I've managed groups.
That's right. Okay, fantastic. So let's look at what else we can do in this group screen. Let's go to the Superstars group, Nick. Sorry, or the Owls, either or.
What is Superstars, yeah?
Yeah, Superstars are great. Okay, so if we go to the Superstars group, what you can see here on the screen, first of all, is how many students through that little purple button that says there are 4 students. You can access group reports from here. You can delete, and you can also edit the group. So let's look at the reports button. So this is another part of the reporting functionality of the system. So we can create a group progress report for this group. So there's various options. You can select from reading level, student ages, gender, and other. Nick's just quickly done a select all, but you can go through and really personalize the group's progress report that you're looking for. But yeah, if you just do select all for now, thanks, Nick, and then go male and female. Thank you. And let's just go view report. So what this does for you is it creates an Excel spreadsheet, which you can export, of course, and it'll provide you with additional information about the group and their progress. We'll just wait for it to come up. Okay, so what you can see here is a list of the students that are in the group, their age, their gender, the date of the last assessment. You'll also be able to see their reading level, that is based on the last satisfactory assessment that was undertaken. Now, what you can see here too, in terms of retail and accuracy, self-correction, comprehension, knowledge and skills and strategies, are the results of the most recent assessments that have been taken. Now, this graphic could be really useful, whether it's like your class as a cohort or more smaller groups, because what it might actually sort of help you identify could be some trends that are happening. For example, with comprehension level, if you're getting unsatisfactory results, then you might be able to see from that there's a group that actually needs a little bit more work around comprehension. So it's a really useful table to come in here and just have a look at. And you can, of course, export it out as well. Is there anything else you want to say about that graph, Nick? I mean, the table?
No. Yeah, the reading level, I'll just clarify, is the currently assigned level of a student.
Yes.
So if you've tested a student they're currently assigned 29, assessed them at 30, but they didn't move up, this would still be 29.
Exactly, yeah. There's another report to look at the group level, and that's the custom graph. So again, this is where you can choose the information that you could be looking for, and you can extract and review about the group. So for the y-axis for this one, Nick, we might look at reading level 1 to 30. And you can just select all the reading levels, but of course they won't be in this group. And all the student ages, and just for the female students, let's do that in this group. And what you'll be able to see here is the graph of and the reading levels of the female students that are within a group. So there's ways of customizing that graph as well for you. So that's the graphs for the group. There's just one other thing that I think we may have actually just already touched on in terms of the graphs tab, the groups tab. And that is just making sure that if you the students without a group, that's where you'll find uploaded students that have not been assigned to a group. It could also be a place where if you delete a group and there are students in that group, they will actually end up in students without a group, so you can come back in and look for them there, unless they've already been assigned to another group if they're in multiple groups. So it's a really useful tab to go in if you can't find a student. So if we go back to our assessment landing page, the final tab on the left-hand side was teachers. And this is where you curate the profiles of the teachers in your school. It displays the active teacher and admin profiles associated with your subscription and their role. Now, this screen is accessible only to admin users. That's right, isn't it, Nick?
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. So if you're a teacher level user and you need access to this screen, we recommend that you contact your admin and ask them to promote you to admin. And it's a pretty simple way of doing that. You can see there's a promote button. So, and from this screen, you can delete one or more teacher profiles. Again, you can go straight to the archives to restore a previously deleted teacher profile if necessary. And you can also create a teacher profile as well. So that's really the overview of the PM Benchmark software in terms of the functionality of loading in students, creating groups and managing your groups, and also uploading teachers. So now we'll get into the juicy stuff as well, which is taking a reading record using the software. But before we do that, I just do want to remind you that the print kits do have a teacher's resource book and procedure cards, and they provide lots of support for doing the assessments, and also they address many frequently asked questions about the procedures of taking a reading record as well. So don't forget to dig into your print kit and get those out too. But let's start doing an assessment. So we click on Start New Assessment. So now we know we're going to test. We've got our student, so we search for our student. So yeah, let's assess tests from the Superstars group. So now we're clicking on Start Assessment. We can see here the information about tests, and we can just check that everything's fine. So let's start testing.
Other quick note is if there's any pending assessments as well, that'll show up underneath tests. So if you need to resume an assessment, yeah, you can find that here as well.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, thank you, Nick. So what we'll do is we'll start tests on a new assessment. You can see on the left-hand side of the screen the details of like who's the assessing teacher and the date of the assessment. And you can, if you need to, you can adjust those dates accordingly. So with the resource, we're going to choose an assessment from our PM Benchmark Literacy Assessment. So you can have a selection here. We'll go LA2, Literacy Assessment 2. We will be doing the reading record, of course, on the level 1 to 30s because, of course, as we know, there are no reading records for the pre-level 1 assessments, and it's also not for the post-level 30. So we're going to do level 3, I think it is, or level 4, looking for Little Cat.
Little Cat, level 4. Yep.
It's a list, and you can see there the text type, the running words, and it just quickly gives you a snapshot of what that book's about. And of course, the student who will be sitting with you will have the print version of this text. So at the bottom, we click Start Student Assessment. Thanks, Nick. And the first task of this survey, of course, is the retell. So the left-hand side of the screen will give you all the prompts and procedures you need to step through this retell. And the right-hand side, of course, will allow you to capture the responses of the student. So, Nick, do you just want to do a bit of a yes, no, just so we can move through the assessment? Thank you. And what you could see there, as Nick was clicking on the inputting the responses or his observations, was that bar was moving. Now, this system automatically applies a result based on that data input, but teachers can override this. You can override this if you choose to. So if you, for whatever reason, or you there's other information that you're bringing to this assessment, you can change what that default setting was. And you can also add in some notes as well. So any decisions made or observations made are captured too. Thanks, Nick. So once the retell is done, of course, you're ready to go on to doing the reading record. Now, there are two options here. You can take a paper reading record and then input a student's scores, and you click on that button and it'll say, do you want to take a paper reading record and input the scores for calculation later? And that's where you would click yes. We're not going to do that for this, but this is where you would do it. So you would still do the retell and capture that digitally, but this is where you do the paper assessment. So as you can see here, we're ready to do the reading record. The right-hand panel will include the reading record marking conventions and other buttons required to move through the assessment. And you can see a notes field as well. So what we'll do is we'll just take you through looking at the standard procedures used when taking a reading record. The green tick, of course, is for marking every correct word and to keep moving through the record. So the student will be reading little cat said Zach. I'm looking for you. So if you just keep clicking away, Nick, we'll get to thank you. So let's make an error. Maybe it'd be Zach looked in the frog in the garden. That's it. Okay, so as you can see, Nick pressed the E, which is for error. Then to continue on with the reading record, you just keep moving with that arrow, that side arrow there, and keep moving through. You are not down there. Let's say here is the word there, Nick, as an error. But then the child self-corrects here. So you, when you press error, that self-correction button also activates, and you can enter the self. Yeah, we've got there, and then you press self-correction, and you can see that little blue symbol, and that indicates that the child has self-corrected, he said. We'll just keep ticking through. Okay, let's just say little cat said Zach, and we can make an insertion. That's another convention. Are you up in the big tree? Sorry, Nick.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. And at this point, what I might do is, if Nick, can you scroll to the top of the reading record again?
Yep.
Thank you.
Over to log.
Switching over to log. So what is happening here, and you'll be able to just switch between the text view and the log view, is you can see that you're capturing these annotations. You can see that the error is being captured. The self-correction for here or there, that's now captured as well. And the inserted word, I think it was, are you in the big tree? That's also captured. Yep, that's captured as well. So if you just go back into the text view. Okay, so let's keep going. Meow, meow. Now, little cat chattered Zach, if you're going to do, if a child repeats a word, just press R as they repeat it. And then you can keep moving along using the tick. If a child repeats a section, we have repeat section, which is the little purple button at the very end of the first line. What you can do is you enter where they started doing repeating this section. For example, if it was meow, meow. So rather than having to key in though the whole section, you could just key in the first word meow, ... Okay, and then you can see that purple little line there, that means that that end of the line, that was all repeated. So the log screen will also capture that for you, just so you can see exactly where that repeated section began and ended. If you have to tell a student, if they pause for too long and a word, then the T in the second line, yep, just below, that's it. That indicates tell. If a student appeals to you, they don't know the word, then you press the A and then the tick to continue. And then you might also find a time where the student has just messed up the sentence or messed up a phrasing of words, and you're just asking them to try again. So what you'll do is you'll capture the error words for that section or for that word, and then you'll press TTA, which is told to try again. And then you can, you're right, Nick? Yep. So, yep. And that will capture it as well. And so the last button, as you're doing your reading records, will be the omission, which is the dash. So if a child skips a word, just simply use that to indicate the word that was omitted. Now, what you can see is as we're going through this reading record, the little tabs at the bottom, and they're capturing the words, the number of words read as you're going along. They're capturing the error rate and they're capturing the self-correction rate as well. So we'll finish the reading record. Nick will just keep clicking through. Thanks, Nick. And now we're up to the comprehension section. So this is the last, oops, sorry, Nick.
I was just going to say, Kate, sorry, before we go on, is that if you needed to go back for some reason while you're taking the assessment,
yes,
you could also go back to take a reading record.
Absolutely, absolutely. You just go to that hamburger icon and click through. So the comprehension section, of course, is the last stage that the student really needs to be present with you while you're doing the digital reading record, and it's to answer the specific questions about the book just read. So again, there's teacher instruction provided on the left, and then the questions and the fields to capture whether it was a valid or invalid answer. You can also enter notes about the student answer. You might enter what they said or some other observation that you've made. So Nick, if you just want to do a mix of valid and invalid. Thank you. What you can see again is that the software again made a judgment on the student response, but we also allow teachers to override this based on their observations and knowledge of the student too. And that's the comprehension section. So we move now on to analysing the reading record. So the student has completed the comprehension assessment, so they can go back to class, they can go back to whatever it is they're doing, and you can complete the MSV analysis. So you can do this section straight away, or you can return to it at a later date. So again, as Nick pointed out earlier, you can find incomplete assessments and you can come in and then have a look at where you're up to in the assessment. So this analysis is the log of the reading record. You can see the errors, the self-corrections, and you can now go through and assign your MSV analysis. So for the error, I think we've got, yeah, thanks, Nick. Nick's just done that for us. You just sort of click using your expert knowledge. And then you scroll to the bottom of the log, and you're moving now on to analysing the reading behaviours. So we're looking at knowledge and skills, at strategies, and at fluency. Let's just select one from knowledge and skills, Nick, just for the purpose of this demonstration. So that's for knowledge and skills. Nick then clicks onto the bottom right where you can see strategies. And we'll do a few here. Thanks, Nick. And down to fluency as well. And again, you can see all the way along, there's notes fields for you to make your notes. And so that's the completion of the assessment. So with the fluency, so if we click down to assessment summary, what we'll be able to do now is have a look at the full summary of all the information that you've entered in the assessment. So the left-hand side panel holds information of the kit that you used, the title of the book or the card, the running words, who assessed the student, and the date. You can see the accuracy. So here it's an instructional text. You can see the retelling results and the comprehension results and the words read as well. You'll also be able to see the errors and the analysis of the miscues, and the same for self-corrections as well. Now, with the reading level, it's instructional, but for whatever reason, if you want to override this, you can. So you can click either way, and it will actually make that change for you. Now, also on this screen, you can click through the reading behaviours to review the information captured during the assessment. And you can do this for the retell, and you can do it for the comprehension as well. And you can also go back into the reading record again, switching between the log view and the text view. So that's your summary of the assessment. The other view on this screen is the recommendations. And this is great. Thank you, Nick. So this provides support of the where to next for that student based on the reading assessment. So for this reading assessment, we can see that there are some recommendations for working on decoding skills for that student. And you can also add your own additional recommendations as well. And also some recommendations around repeat and reread and self-correction. We also have recommendations for, if we can scroll back up, oh, you're scrolling down, Nick, yeah, to fluency.
It's showing that there's fluency as well on this page. Yeah.
That's right, exactly. And it's easy to view these because you can go through the tab for retelling and for comprehension. The other great thing about this summary page and the recommendation screen is that you can export both the assessment summary and the recommendations, and you can print or save them. And you can choose which sections you would like to do, so you can tailor it. And that by exporting this assessment, it creates a PDF for you to save and share. Just wait for it to be brought. And here it comes, and you can see it's a summary of the assessment that you've done with that student. Because Nick selected every box, we're going to see the summary, but we're also going to see the recommendations. And then again, we're going to see a log view of the reading record. Thanks, Nick. So
it also includes any of your notes as well. So
that's right.
Those notes, it'll come up in here as well.
That's right, exactly. It captures them as well. So it's got those teacher observations captured too. So finally, in regards to taking a reading record and an assessment result, there is a feature that we'd like to show you. Yeah, thanks, Nick. If a child has done a successful read of the text. So if they have successfully done read a text and they've received a really strong or like high accuracy score and self-correction score with independent, the system will automatically identify a reading level. Now, what this algorithm doesn't do is take into account the student's comprehension or retelling results. And so we know that when paper-based assessments are done, teachers will review all of their observations about what they experienced when assessing that child. And they'll look at those percentages and numbers that come from that analysis and make that judgment of if it's accurate. When we first developed the software, our users suggested that the software make this initial judgment of if a student has read accurately or decoded accurately to move a student up a level, but that teachers always have to be able to override this automatic calculation. So if a reading level is independent and this green panel occurs at the top of the screen, it's based on reading accuracy, on their ability to decode well, but you need to also take into account their comprehension and their retelling. So in this case, you would choose to move Tess up a level. I think she's done really well in her her retelling could take a bit of work, but her comprehension's good. But what you can do is if you choose not to, you can simply close the box and it won't move that student up a level. And then if we go back to our assessment home screen, thanks, Nick. What we'll see now is the recently completed assessment of Tess here. The other feature that is worth looking at, just a reminder, is the help section of the PM Benchmark software. So it's sitting in the top, thanks Nick, right-hand corner, and here's where you can find support for some of any questions that you might have. It includes visuals and it also includes a list of videos for parts of the software too. They're at the bottom of the help. So if you just scroll down, you'll come to videos, which gives you an overview and how to add managed groups and reporting functionality as well. We also have a YouTube channel, and that will also give you further information and videos. And we have a demo account as well. I think the other thing to point out, just briefly with the assessments, is what Nick and I were showing you there is, of course, an assessment, a reading record for level 1 to 30. But this software does also capture, you can use it for your pre-level 1 assessments, and you can use it for your post-level 30 assessments as well. You can also get a report from those assessments too. So for example, Tess, Nick's just going in now, and I think he's going to choose probably a pre-level 1.
Yeah, so there's the two pre-level ones, one for each of the kids. So you can do either of those.
That's right. Now with the pre-level 1, yeah, thanks. And then for the post-level 30, I was just going to say that with the pre-level 1, we're aware that these assessments can take place over the course of a few days or a few weeks, so you don't actually need to complete this assessment in one sitting. What you do with a pre-level 1 is you can skip through to the section of that assessment that you want to do with your student at the time. And you, of course, can view their assessment history in their individual student profile.
The superstars.
Superstars, and Alice, yeah, Alice she's got some pre-level assessments sitting in there. Yeah, there we go. So you can see, as you can see, Alice has not had a phonics assessment done yet, so nothing has been captured, but she has had an oral literacy assessment and a phonological awareness assessment done. And again, you can print out recommendations and the summary report for the pre-level 1s. And Nick, if we just go to, when you're ready, the Albatross group for the post-level 30, we'll just quickly show that there are assessments captured there as well. And that's right, yeah. And there we have a post-level 30 assessment. So again, you've got the summary of it, you've got recommendations for a post-level 30 assessment. So that really is the functionality of the assessment software. I don't think, Nick, is there anything else you would like to add?
I think we covered most of it, yeah.
Yeah, I think we do, Mel. I think that we've just sort of stepped through the functionality of the software.
Fantastic. Yeah, that was great and so comprehensive. Thank you. So if anyone online does have any questions, please post them in the Q&A or the chat windows now, and we'll take the next 10 minutes to address anything that comes through. We did have one come through while you're presenting, asking if an assessment can be deleted.
I can take that one. So yeah, there's two ways to delete an assessment. So if it's a recently completed assessment, which is one of the last 5, you can remove them from here. Or if it's an incomplete assessment, you can delete it from here. And then when we're showing the student's assessment history in the table view, you can also remove ones from there. So that's come up a few times of, people have incorrectly created an assessment of one student instead of another or something like that. Over in that archive area, you can archive it. And then once an assessment is archived, you can come into the archives and you can permanently delete from here.
So it can't easily be done accidentally either, which is also a good thing.
Yes, that's it. So you can delete them, and then in case you have to recover it or you want to be able to go back and review that accidental assessment, you can come back here and unarchive it as well.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Nick. And we've got a couple more coming through. So do students automatically move up a year level each calendar year?
Yes. So we do adjust the grade that's on a student up automatically, usually on January 1st, I believe it is, of the year. But that doesn't move them groups. So if a student's assigned to a group that was created for a class last year, we aren't going to automatically move them around, but their grade will be adjusted. And then if they haven't moved up, you can adjust that back down.
Fantastic, thank you. So we've got a couple of post 30 assessment questions. So one question was, where do you get your post 30 assessments from? Which I'm happy to jump in there and just say that what we're referring to there, obviously, I'm not sure if you're just talking about the assessments in general, but they are part of the new PM Benchmark Literacy Assessment, Kits 1 and 2. So it's a new addition. If you've been using the older kits, the red and the blue, the reading assessment resource kits, they didn't have post-level 30 assessments included. So it is a new feature of the PM Benchmark Literacy Assessment kits. And we did have a question. Can you explain a bit more about the post-30 assessments? Okay.
Yeah. These are assessments that have been selected for your very confident, strong, independent readers. It's an opportunity for these students to engage with authentic texts from popular works of literature or different text types that might reflect more like a scientific report. And they really expose your students to more complex styles of writing with higher order sentences and concepts. We wanted the students to draw on their higher order thinking skills to explore and understand these texts. So what you will have for a post-level 30 assessment is the student will, of course, silently read the text. I've got one in front of me. This is an exposition. It's a card. They'll do a retell. They still will do an oral reading and you can observe reading behaviours. There are comprehension questions, but there's a very new section to the comprehension, which is oral analysis and critique of the text. And the analysis is really focusing on how the text is constructed. like how did the author use language to convey their message, or how they presented the information and why. And then there's the critique focus as well, which is that reflection and evaluation of the text. And this is the student giving their opinion on that text, of which, of course, there are no right or wrong answers, but it really does just allow them to articulate and probably use richer vocab and deepen their world knowledge, or show what they know as well. The post-level 30 titles are really for a recommended reading age of 12, pushing right up to 13. For example, in the new Benchmark Literacy Assessment Kit 2, we actually have a poem in there from William Blake, which we probably all do know, called The Tiger. And it's a very sophisticated text, but it's it's there. And this is all based on feedback when we were creating these new kits, we were developing these new kits, on what our users wanted, like expanding out the original red and blue kits, of course. So, and you can capture this information, of course, for the post-level 30 as a digital assessment.
Thanks, Kate. So I've got a few more questions come through. What is the difference between the two literacy assessment kits, and are they different texts? So yes, they're all new texts in the second kit, which has just come out in April, and kit 1 came out late 2019.
Yes.
So they're both very new, but they've got entirely different texts in each of them. We have done a previous webinar on unpacking both the kits. So when we send out this recording, I can also include links to those webinars, which I think are really helpful in orientating with what's in each of the kits and the differences between the two. Do you have to purchase the physical products? So yes, there is no digital version of the text in here. You need the student to have a physical copy. Is that correct, Kate?
Yes, that's right. I mean, it's really interesting, and particularly I think in today's environment where, there has been like lockdowns and remote learning, we're really aware that, some of our customers, not all, of course, have asked for digital versions, but at this time, it is linked to the print kit. And I think for us, we would take it very seriously in creating digital text that would be used for benchmarking, because there's a lot of research, I think, and efficacy that's required around digital literacy. And we know that this benchmarking and our approach is a one-on-one observation with the student sitting next to them. So, but it is something that we're aware of. So it's really good to hear how people are using it, and particularly in this evolving environment that we're in right now.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Kate. And another question, how do you keep up with the pace of marking? So errors, self-corrections, all of those functions that you showed us as the students are reading, especially if they're on higher levels and would be reading quite fluently. Can you go back and mark on the Take Reading record page? What sort of suggestions do you offer in this situation, I guess, would be?
I think partly it is like practice and use, of course, and I think that's part of it, but also you can go back into and make notes in the reading record, I think, can't you, Nick? Like,
yeah. So
yeah.
If there's an incomplete one, I think even if there's a complete one, you can go to the reading record and adjust your notes afterwards as well.
Yes. Yeah,
as long as you
right.
haven't actually completed the assessment and gone to the summary, you can always go back to those other pages as well. So yeah, if you needed to, you could go back to that reading record page and add some comments or redo it.
And I think from what I've seen of other people using it, just using a device that you're most comfortable with, given that it's all through a browser, as long as your device is connected to an internet connection, Wi-Fi connection, whatever device you feel most comfortable with. Some people like using tablets, some people like using laptops. Definitely being comfortable with it helps you breeze through it a bit quicker. That seems to be all the outstanding questions that we have, which is quite convenient given that it's 4:55. We've wrapped that up nicely. If anyone does have any further questions, we're always happy to follow up with you directly. You can reach us on the Nelson Primary email that you would have received, your confirmation email, your link for today, your event reminder. That's the best email to reach us on. And then my team monitors that, and then we can follow up with Nick or Kate or your sales representative if you want them to come out to your school to view the new PMLA kits. So yes, just use that as your point of contact, and we can go from there. As I mentioned at the beginning, we're sending out a recording that will come out in about a week or two to the email that you've registered with. So please keep an eye out for that, and feel free to share that with your colleagues and anyone else in your school who's using the resource either as an admin or a teacher and you think might benefit from it. But I think if there's no further questions, we'll finish 3 minutes early and let you all have a lovely evening. So thanks, Kate and Nick. That was a really great walkthrough, and I'm sure everyone found it really helpful. And to all our guests, thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you at our next event. Thanks, everyone. Good night.